So a few days ago, Blizzard put out a roadmap for Diablo IV from 2025 looking into 2026 with the next expansion. On this roadmap, we saw a glimpse into the next couple seasons as well as the next expansion. However, looking at this roadmap, a lot of fans were a little underwhelmed by what we saw. It was basically seasons of borrowed power, quests and reputation boards, earnable pets, and one or two little tidbits about the season. These can be things like the new IP collabs or which permanent fixture of the game they plan on revising slightly. But with all that said, we did see a few social media posts by PezRadar, like this one where Adam said, "We've seen a bunch of comments and feedback over the last few days, noting that they believe the roadmap is a totality of everything that is coming. I do want to assure everyone that we are very self-aware of some of the items players are yearning for, and I do want to confirm that we are looking at many of these items, including skill trees and adjustments related to that, endgame, and making the experience better for all players, and plenty more. The roadmap will get updated as we march through, and more of the items people are talking about will start to be revealed, along with all the details behind each of these updates." So while this is good news, we still don't really know what any of those ideas are. Or do we? Since this roadmap was released, Blizzard also sent out a survey about Diablo IV talking about some of these ideas and things that may be coming in future seasons or possibly even in the next expansion. So early on in the survey, there was a page that says, "For the next series of questions, we would like you to consider the following list of features. Please read these features and their descriptions in detail, as they will appear again in a few different ways. Some of these features appear in Diablo IV, some are exclusive to other games, and some you may have never heard of. Please read the following carefully, as they may not appear with the descriptions later." So number 1, the campaign. A continuation of the core campaign, offering 10 hours of additional story featuring prominent characters from the Diablo universe. Continuing a campaign is pretty standard for an expansion in a video game, especially with Blizzard. The next line is a new class. Yeah, with an expansion, we expect a new class. Paladin, please. Number 3, new zone. A new zone with distinctly unique visual elements that has appeared in a previous Diablo title. Okay, this is interesting. This does sound like we are returning to somewhere we've been in the past. Maybe something like Westmarch or Tristram. Number 4 is new monsters. New monster types with new models and abilities. Again, we expect that with expansions, and also wouldn't mind it with new seasons. Number 5, new monster abilities. New abilities and attacks for the monsters in Sanctuary. Again, pretty standard. Number 6, new mount type. New mount types in addition to the existing variant. So we currently have horses and warcats. We could see new mount types like bears or flamingos, who knows? Give us a big floppy puppy. Number 7, this is where it starts getting a little interesting. New crafting system. A flexible and extensible crafting system featuring a brand new suite of materials for crafting and item modification. So I know this is vague, but new endgame and new crafting are two of the biggest features players have been requesting literally since the game has been released. We saw a little bit of that with the masterworking and tempering systems, but we need more. Number 8, new skills, existing classes. New active and passive skills for the existing classes. So for Vessel of Hatred, we did see one new skill for every class and then a couple of passive nodes. Number 9, skill tree layout update. An update to the skill tree that adds new pathing and routing options between existing and new skills, allowing for new combinations and greater build variety. We also saw this with Vessel of Hatred. When they added the new skills, they also added new branches and stuff, so you have a little bit more flexibility of how you want to move through the tree. Hopefully they expand upon that and maybe go even a little crazier. Number 10, skill customization. New passive skills in the talent tree that modify skill attributes such as elemental type, projectile quantity, shape, frequency, etc. So right off the bat, this sounds like they might be thinking about taking some of the tempering options and moving them onto the skill tree instead. However, my brain, since I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile 2 lately, is maybe they're looking at the support gems that we get in PoE and maybe thinking about doing something similar to that on our skill tree. Number 11, Paragon update. An update to existing Paragon boards as well as new Paragon boards for each class, allowing for greater build variety. So if they're planning on changing the existing ones and adding new ones, that sounds like more of the same, but I'm okay with it. However, I would love to see more of a bigger overhaul on how the system works. Just spitballing here, but maybe a new consumable type that we can socket into the board and maybe craft on those to make it a little more interesting. Number 12, set bonuses. Adds a new avenue for character builds and power progression. A system for socketing key passives and set bonuses in the endgame. So set bonuses we're all familiar with if we've played Diablo 2, Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, or whatever other video games that have sets. Last Epoch has sets. But it's intriguing here that they say a system for socketing key passives and set bonuses in the endgame. What exactly does that mean? Number 13, dungeon customization system. A customizable, multi-floor dungeon experience where players influence dungeon parameters and difficulty. Players can influence the gear rewards that they get at the end with a high degree of control and accuracy, affixes, greater affixes, etc. So immediately, this made me think of the Season 9 tease that we saw on the roadmap, which had dungeon escalation, as well as new Nightmare Dungeon activities. So this could tie into that. Number 14, activity playlist and reward selection. allows players to have more control over the types of rewards they receive by selecting specific activities and reward pairings. Players can build their activity playlist and earn valuable rewards from various activities across Sanctuary, such as obtaining masterworking materials from Helltide or crafting materials and gold from Nightmare Dungeons. With this feature, you can decide which activities to engage with in order to get the resources needed to progress, giving more agency in how you play. This also helps provide guidance on how to maximize your fun and efficiency post-campaign. So this kind of reminded me of the way that the Atlas tree and the monolith system works in PoE and Last Epoch. So if you're the kind of player who just wants to focus on one activity, let's say you really enjoy doing the pit and you don't want to do anything else, but you really need masterworking materials, you can say, I want to do the pit, I want to get masterworking materials. That sounds like a good flexible system if you ask me. Number 15, boss towers. Additional bosses to engage with, providing more boss encounter variety in the late game and better target farming potential. So this kind of sounds like the boss layer, boss ladder system that we have now, but they specifically say boss towers and additional bosses to engage with. So hopefully that means we're getting several more. Number 16, fishing. A collection and interaction feature present in all zones, allowing a player to fish. This would be a non-combat side activity. So a lot of video games have fishing systems. World of Warcraft has fishing. I believe Diablo Immortal has fishing now. I'm not exactly sure what these fish would be useful for. Number 17, level cap increase. Increased level cap from 60 to 70. That's an expansion feature, no brainer. We went from 50 to 60 with Vessel of Hatred. We'll go to 60 to 70 with the next expansion. More than likely. Number 18, endless monster waves of increasing difficulty. An activity for max level characters in Torment Plus difficulties where you'll face relentless waves of enemies and bosses in a fast-paced, chaotic battle, continuing to fight until you fail, either by letting too many monsters spawn or by dying. The more waves completed, the better your rewards. So in Diablo 3, we had the Echoing Nightmare system, which was very similar to this. There was one room that was constantly spawning waves of monsters with a bunch of shrines in the corner of the room, and you had to survive as many waves as possible, and you would get better rewards based on how many waves you survived. Number 19, Boss Time Attack. A game mode where players have a limited amount of time to defeat as many bosses as they can, and are rewarded based on their progress. What's interesting to me here is bosses is in quotation marks. Why is that? Are we going to get non-bosses as a boss variant of themselves? Maybe. Number 20, new combo skills. Using certain skills in certain orders can provide additional damage bonuses, create unique visual effects, etc. I know in interviews leading up to Vessel of Hatred, Brent Gibson talked a lot about being inspired by fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if that kind of ties into here. I think certain classes would use combo skills better than others. I think it would be a lot of fun for a class like a Spiritborn, one who's fast and flashy with their combat, to use combo skills. Rogues would be really cool. I don't know if all classes would have this or just a select few, but it's an interesting thought. Number 21, Tower of Truth. A high score style game mode where players fight to see how far up they can go in the tower each week. Enemies become more difficult at each floor, and certain floors are special floors with either a unique challenge or a unique modifier. Rewards are based on progress. So I really like this style of gameplay. However, I'm a little hesitant about a weekly mode. If they just mean that the tower is different every week and you can participate in it multiple times, I think that's totally fine. But if it's that you can only do it one time, I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of feel like this might be what they're looking at their replacement for the Gauntlet, which was a different map every week. So it sounds like it might be that kind of format. Number 22, Advanced Shrines. New shrines appear throughout Sanctuary, offer unique and distinct powers and modifiers, including Pillar of Glory and Pillar of Proving from Gauntlet. So I remember these pillars being in the Gauntlet, but I'm not exactly sure how they would work in the open world. We'll have to wait and see what they mean by that. Number 23, Mercenary Combo Skills. Mercenary skills can interact with certain skills across classes to produce more powerful and different versions of skills. Example, Rahir's Ground Slam after Sork's Frost Nova causes a repeated shockwave of mini Frost Novas that continue to chill but don't freeze. I do like this idea because it would make the mercenary choice a little bit more interesting depending on which class you're playing. So while I don't think it would be a huge addition to the game, it is a little bit of flavor that would be nice. Number 24, new Uber bosses. Unique bosses that are difficult encounters only accessible via the endgame and designed to be defeated by fully optimized character builds. So we have the Uber bosses currently, and we're getting a new one in this upcoming Season 8. I'm all for adding new bosses. The only thing is I hate when the Uber bosses end up becoming loot pinatas that we're just spamming hundreds of times in a row to get mythic uniques. I hope that they make them a little bit more interesting going forward, but I am excited at the possibility of getting more additional Uber bosses. Number 25, Bounty System. A new set of daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal tasks that players can focus on, complete, and earn rewards. So I'm not entirely sure how this bounty system would work differently than the Tree of Whispers because that's similar to the bounty system in Diablo 3. But if we're getting sets of daily, weekly, and monthly ones, maybe some will be, easy to knock out real quick, and other ones are going to take a little bit more of a grind, keep players coming back more regularly. This would be a good thing to do to try to keep player retention high, which as a company, obviously they're going to want to do that. Number 26, new power source. An alternate power system like in D3, where players can permanently apply an aspect from an item without having to wear it, bringing new potential twists to builds. So in Diablo 3, we had the Kanai's Cube, and the first recipe in Kanai's Cube was the Archive of Tal Rasha that let you extract a legendary power. Then you could permanently take 3 of these powers, one from a weapon, one from an armor, and one from a piece of jewelry, and these powers would basically become passive powers that your character always had. So in Diablo 4, for example, if you had 3 codex powers that you knew your character was always going to want to have, but you didn't have an item slot that necessarily matched that power, maybe your build needs a certain new unique that conflicts with one of your armor slots that you would normally put a codex power on. Now you'll be able to put it in one of these slots, and permanently have it regardless of the gear that you're wearing. Number 27, new legendary item affixes. All new legendary affixes, expanding the possibilities with builds. I think at this point we all expect new items to be coming out fairly regularly with new item affixes, so that's no surprise. And then the survey goes on to ask, what changes or updates to Diablo 4 would make you even more excited to play the game? And on this list, a lot of these things are going to be no-brainers that we know we're going to be getting, but some of them are a little bit more interesting. So we get new season journey pets to earn, new story characters, better loot drops, new weapons, equipment, or items, new class abilities, new cooperative player-verse environment PvE game modes, new quests or daily activities, returning story characters, more challenging content, raising the level cap or maximum item level and gear score, new holiday events, new booster events, meta progression rewards for participating across seasons, more streamlined seasonal experience, improvements to character progression, new seasonal powers, earning platinum to spend in the shop or battle pass, exploring new parts of the world, more frequent loot drops, new battle pass to complete, new narrative content, and new achievements to complete. So the ones that were interesting to me here were new class abilities, which we do expect to get with expansions, but if we got them more often, that would be great. New cooperative PvE game modes, which, like the Dark Citadel, like the Cross Undercity, those kind of things, we need more of those. I wouldn't mind if they brought back revamped versions of the Gauntlet or the Vaults from Season 3, and even more so, I would love to see brand new ideas. More challenging content is definitely something people have been begging for. So meta progression rewards for participating across seasons. That one's interesting to me. They want to reward you for playing multiple seasons. Is that going to be a checklist? Complete 3 season journeys in a row and you get this bonus? Or is it going to be a little more interesting than that? Earning platinum to spend in the shop or battle pass, that would be really nice if there was an in-game way to also earn platinum for those of us who don't want to or can't afford to spend money on the game. And then the survey goes through a list of a bunch of other ideas that they wanted to gauge how excited we would be to play with those systems. Cosmetic portraits. Similar to portraits in Diablo 3, players would be able to earn through season journey completion cosmetic portraits shown on their character icon while in a party. More elaborate portraits would be awarded for completing the season journey's most challenging objectives. The next one here is weird to me. It says armory system, which we already got that, so I don't know why that's on this survey, so we're going to skip through that one. Pet families. Different pet types gain different non-combat abilities. For example, one pet family could have the ability to salvage outside of town, while another pet family could give you stash access from anywhere, etc. I really like this idea. However, it would feel really bad having to choose one of those and not another. While I would love to have access to my stash anywhere, I would also really like to be able to salvage, so having to pick and choose between one of those options doesn't sound like a win to me. This one's for the Diablo 2 players. Charms. Similar to charms in Diablo 2 and Diablo 2 Resurrected, players would have an inventory where they would acquire and collect items that provide power bonuses to their character. Charms would include plus to core stats, plus to specific skills, and other affixes that players find in-game for additional power progression. So charms were a big part of Diablo 2. But if you play Diablo 2, dealing with the inventory Tetris and having a full inventory full of charms just to maximize your player power was a very unpopular system for a lot of people. We've seen systems in other ARPGs like Last Epoch that has their idol system. There was a separate inventory for idols. So I would hope if they're going to go down this road, they should give us some kind of charm inventory. Maybe it's something that pops out of the side of the normal inventory, or maybe a separate tab on the character page. Ability effects. Change the visual appearance of character class abilities. For example, a sorcerer could change their lightning color from blue to red or another color. So this is basically a cosmetic change for your skills, which I think would be pretty cool. I would love to be a druid shooting green tornadoes and that kind of thing. And then again here we see fishing. Casual first feature for collectors where players can re-explore base game and expansion 1 collecting fish. Unlike Altars of Lilith, the fish are purely collectible items and are not attached to any power progression. Doesn't sound like this is actually going to be useful for any in-game mechanics other than purely collecting, maybe for achievements and that kind of thing. And then we have Build Recommender and Planner, an in-game tool to help facilitate following a build guide or planning your build. You could upload a planner from an online guide or a friend to follow skill point and Paragon board allocations easily in-game. For players less familiar with builds, in-game recommendations would provide options to players who don't know how to use an online guide. So this feels a lot like what World of Warcraft did a couple expansions ago, where you could take your talent tree, export it as like a string, and then share it with somebody, and then that other person could import it, which would be really nice. So websites like Maxroll and Mobalytics and that kind of thing, when they post a build guide, they could just give you a link that you can copy into the game, and it would automatically, like as you level up, your skill points would automatically be allocated, or maybe it would just highlight the node so you can follow along if you want to, but if you want to veer off the path a little bit, you have that option to do so. So the in-game recommendations part of that kind of reminded me of Diablo Immortal. Like if you were a barbarian, it might say like, this piece of gear with this piece of gear with this piece of gear might be a good way to go to start off your build. That would give new players some idea of how to form a build if they're not really sure which way to go. Minion cosmetics gain the ability to change the look of your minions, like the Necromancer skeletons or the Druid wolves, based on new designs. Again, more cosmetics are cool. I would also love to see shapeshift forms for druids. The game has a ton of really cool cosmetics, but when the druid is in one of their wolf or bear forms, you don't really see those cosmetics most of the time. So it'd be really nice to have cosmetic shapeshift forms. Improved clan system. Similar to other MMOs, there would be more reasons, challenges, and activities to participate with your clan in the world of Sanctuary. Possibilities include fighting a world boss as a clan, or working towards group challenges for gold or other item rewards. As somebody who does lead a clan, I would love this, because right now it does just feel like an extended friends list. There's not really a whole lot of interactivity between the clan other than the clan chat. Next, we have dungeon crafting. At endgame, players are able to use their vast collected resources to craft dungeon keys that can customize a dungeon experience. Players can add shrines, chests, bosses, events, goblins, etc. to a dungeon key through crafting. These keys could be used by the player or traded to enter a user-generated content dungeon and reap the rewards. So going back to the roadmap, we did see dungeon escalation and new Nightmare Dungeon activities in Season 9. So that could be one of the features that we're getting with that season, or this could be something completely separate. That remains to be seen. And then the last thing on the list was reactive cosmetics. Based on actions made in-game, such as killing an elite or maintaining a kill streak, there will be temporary visual changes of your character, such as bigger visual effects, changing colors, or new animations. So just more cosmetic options that could be fun. When you're on a kill streak, it'd be nice if your character starts glowing. The more kills you get, the more visually impactful it looks. I think that could be a really neat addition to the game. So I think there's a lot of really cool potential ideas in there. I wonder how many of these systems Blizzard's considering doing. I'm curious if some of these are already in the work or if these are all just kind of ideas that they threw out for this survey. But what do you guys think? What new activities or game modes or item types or whatever, what would you like to see in the game? Whether it be Season 9, Season 10, Expansion 2, Expansion 3, Expansion 4, what do you guys want to see added to Diablo 4? People always say we want new crafting, we want new endgame. What does that mean though for you? What modes would you like to see? Because I'm sure Blizzard always hears, we want more endgame, we want more crafting, but what specifically? What sounds fun to you? What would you want to play?